touching a little bit now on resilience, Tuan, I want to kind of get an understanding of, as organizations are kind of continuing to invest into supply chain resilience, cost still remains kind of like under pressure there. How are you balancing, how are you approaching that balance in terms of like that long-term resilience and the day-to-day efficiency?
Yeah, so now long-term resilience, what does it mean? Doing something permanent. And of course, it's then there putting higher transit times in our system, safety stock, working on dual sourcing. Those are for sure long-term activities to work out suppliers, diversify your supply chain. I mentioned earlier also scenario planning. Of course, those are kind of things that are running more long-term, setting up long-term resilience. But overall, I think when it comes then, of course, all those initiatives and let alone safety buffer, safety stocks is, of course, a cost topic, right? And therefore, in midterm, short term, we're also working more on being more flexible on that side, right? Meaning staying on track of any kind of disruption topics to react then faster and to create then resilience measured on the permanent side, but also more on the flexible side, right? And so that's how we are acting on. And I introduced earlier that visibility tool that we're having. It's also something that we did not do alone. We partnered it up with a German startup called Holocene. Of course, that helped us to move a little bit faster on that end, right? I understand the headache that Eric also having in the big corporations for those kind of tools, right? But they also, I think, there are partners like startups like Holocene who are willing to go there a step faster to reach then this kind of flexibility and visibility on short term.
Perfect, thank you. Eric, same kind of question to you on how you're kind of approaching that balance between that long-term resilience and day-to-day efficiency.
Yeah, it's a matter, I think, of sort of carefully picking your focus areas, right? Being strategic about it, and a question of the sort of the long haul, right? So you build these things, resilience, not in one day, 1 week, or 1 year. You do that over time. If I look at our own organization, kind of driven by to some degree by the nature of the business, with how car manufacturing sort of evolved over the years, but also by the nature of the product, meaning the big black donut has a lot of space, air in the middle, so shipping is not that efficient in its own right. So we have a lot of local manufacturing and quite a few plants across the world. Of course, there's consolidation of some degree, right? Not every market has its own plant, nowhere near that. But we do have a reasonable spread of the manufacturing footprint. Now that, particularly in the last few years, has given us quite a bit of resilience or flexibility, or both, in fact, to be able to service markets. So we continue to look very careful at the footprint, and yeah, to repeat the same mantra, right? It's how do we focus on the digitalization of some of our operations? Frankly speaking, we still have some gaps, capability gaps to close there, but I'm hopeful with the investments plans that we're now building for the next 5 years. We can do that. So it's being in tune with the market developments of the here and now, but also projecting what comes out in the future, looking in the glass bowl, and then place your bets carefully, and then make the consistent investments that are needed to build those capabilities and to enable that resilience.
Perfect, thank you. I want to jump to a couple of questions coming in from the audience here. Tuan, I want to direct this one to you around have you had to adapt any of your kind of logistics routes, modes and processes in the context of fuel rationing or higher costs?
I mean, for us, for sure, and like for every other one, Cape of Good Hopes as a rerouting became the new default, right? And the rerouting of vessels became more or less the new normal. Yes, of course, we also have our sustainability agenda, and of course in transportation you can do there a lot. But in the end, of course, there we have our reliable partners who try to then as most efficient transport our materials from A to Z, right? And here and there, of course, there were some compensation of, and that's also what we got the feedback to save on some fuel, extend a bit of lead times, which is okay. And that's where I'm talking about. It needs a closer collaboration and also with your partners, right, to agree on that in the sense. But then for your urgent shipments to be aware that they are then fully planned out with a certain kind of buffer.
Thank you. Eric, you're welcome to touch on the same question around kind of adapting your logistics routes, etc. But I also want to get your view, because we have a few questions coming in, on how do you see Chinese competition and growth impacting kind of your supply chain? Are you also sourcing and transporting more from China as well?
So on the logistics side, yeah, obviously with the recent fuel price hike and also some of the limitations on the container shipping around the Middle East and the raw material supply, we had to make a few adjustments. In some cases, we were able to find a secondary supplier or shift to an existing secondary supplier. Again, these things are not very straightforward because we're very, very specific and very careful about the materials that we buy. We typically test those for a number of months in actual manufacturing process before we adopt a new source, a new material. So, but some of those activities have been taking place. Obviously, rerouting of container ships. We obviously, sorry, I use the word obviously a lot, but the carriers that we work with are clearly a key partnership, form a key partnership in this. So the relationships that we have with them, the collaboration has been quite important as well. Now, just remind me of the second part of your question.
Around the Chinese competition and
the Chinese competition
in your supply chains, yeah.
Yeah, so the growth is partly coming in China itself, right? Because we bid on OE contracts for the tires that we supply. So we aim and have been quite successful in securing those OEM contracts. And as I said earlier, is to follow where those exports, those car exports are going into the global market space, and then make sure that we have the replacement tires available in that marketplace as well. Again, at a competitive price point and at the right sort of quality. So in many ways, the Chinese car manufacturers, but also the Chinese tire suppliers are both an opportunity and a formidable competitor, if I may say, that we're trying to work with on the customer side and obviously counter and up our own game as well in terms of how do we do our sourcing, which was also packaged into your question. So yes, we are looking at China, and we always have been using China as a source base. But there are a few initiatives on the way to look at that a little bit more carefully. And yes, more broadly, looking at our supply base and where we source materials from to make sure that we stay very competitive in the marketplace without obviously sacrificing the quality and the performance of the ultimate product, the tires itself.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric. I want to ask you a question now a little around from our audience around kind of the technology side. We had a digital strategies event in Nashville last month that kind of touched on this as well. So this is kind of a global issue around one of our audience members has said everyone talks about AI and automation as a great tool, but in their experience, the real cost sits in the expectations, mismatched delivery quantities, wrong documents, manual rekeying between the warehouse systems and the ERP. So have you been able to kind of identify what the kind of expectation handling costs is for the business, and where you kind of where you hope the most expectations kind of originate from? Tuan, maybe I'll come to you first on that.
Yeah, I think we heard it a lot from Eric and my end when it comes to collaboration, but collaboration means also you have multiple partners. Yeah, I mentioned earlier all those logistic partners, but also suppliers. And yes, working with a lot of partners like this in logistic, that means also here and there a lot of manual entries, mistakes, etc. And that's also what we identified of one big issue and also potentials where we then, as earlier mentioned, implemented that AI tool. And talking about digitalization, AI for logistic, I think it's really around visibility, but not just a shared visibility in any kind of report that's then historically reflecting. We're talking here about really real time, meaning also then finding those issues in this documentation, which could potentially cause a delay of the shipments or customs handling, meaning really not just reported visibility, but really real-time visibility. And that's, I think, a strong focus going in, which also takes quite some effort, for sure.
Yeah, perfect. Eric, same question to you on that as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think on the subject of AI, there's still some work to be done as an organization here in APIC around, seeing the value and the opportunity that this provides us, but also recognize the prerequisites in order to scale that and use it in the right way. The costs that come with it. I think everybody's aware of some of the stories out there about companies that end up spending more on AI than they're actually saving in the headcount reductions or otherwise expectations that they had set up front. So in sort of good old-fashioned Bridgestone style, I would say we're taking a very considered, measured approach in that regard. But yeah, you could see that sometimes there's a bit of a gap between what certain people in the organization think about the size of the opportunity and what it takes to really make that happen. So good communication, being open-minded, looking at the facts, do proper proof of concepts, trials at the right scale is part of our approach to make sure that we do things in sort of with the right pace and ensuring the right outcomes, so that we then close or don't create that expectation management gap and the associated cost that you were referring to. So not a very concrete answer, but maybe a little bit more philosophical one, or management style one. But that's how we're looking at things within Bridgestone at the moment.
Perfect, thank you. Well, the supply chain can be very philosophical and theoretical as well. So to kind of end, I want to wrap up and ask, when we welcome you back to our event in October in Malaysia this year, where do you hope the market would have progressed from where you're kind of seeing now? Tuan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, first of all, on Exxon's side, let's hope that the situation in Middle East improves, even though with the latest news it doesn't look so good, but hopefully that happens overall geopolitically. Nevertheless, of course, I think we at Schaeffler and overall regarding also our partners, I think, we now got used to the new normal. Apart from that, of course, from our internal initiatives, I mentioned at the moment is just in pilot. I hope that the solution from Holocene when it comes to the inbound digitalization is something that we can further roll out by then in more countries. And apart from that, looking forward, of course, to October and then to catch up with you all in person.
Thank you, Tuan. Eric, to wrap us up.
Yeah, look, of course, we would like to see the business to grow, both on the OEM side as well as on the replacement market. As I alluded to at the opening, we still have the USMCA agreement in North America. but President Trump has said that he doesn't want to continue that. Obviously, we have to see how this all plays out, but that could be another certain type of disruption coming in. Global trade has been thriving on a degree of stability and certain formal and informal agreements over the decades. So we thrived as a business on the back of that, but we will adapt to the situations that come our way. In the meantime, we'll just continue to focus on what our customers are looking for, right? In terms of the price quality balance, create value for our customers over and beyond the product itself. Those are the standard but very fundamental things that we continue to try to do as a business, and obviously in the supply chain as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. Tuan, it was great to have you. I mean, we could talk so much more about everything going on in the industry right now, but I very much look forward to welcoming you in person to our ASEAN conference in Malaysia, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there in person. Thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to bring us a little bit full circle here, because what this hour has really kind of shown us is that the conditions for reaching kind of any opportunities within the industry has really tightened considerably. As our panelists alluded there, localization requirements are biting, the competitive landscape is shifting, input costs and shipping routes are under pressure from events well beyond anyone's control. I think the difference between the companies that capture this growth and those that don't will really come down to execution in the supply chain and how well they localize, how effectively they integrate across a fragmented region, and in the transparency and trust they build with their partners across every tier, which both of our panelists spoke about in quite a bit of depth there. We'll take these conversations further in person in Automotive Logistics and Supply Chain ASEAN in Kuala Lumpur on the 27th and 28th of October. Registration for that event is open. And the ASEAN Automotive Logistics Market Report that I kind of showcased at the beginning is available on our website to download. Our updated report will be coming in October, and it will be accessible in the same link when it goes live. So if you're waiting for next year's report, do keep that link bookmarked. It should be with you soon. And then, of course, more live streams to come this year around packaging and our annual end of year live stream looking at 2026 in review. So we'll have a lot to say based off of that discussion, and we're only looking at the ASEAN region here. So we will be looking globally, and then, of course, the trends leading into 2027 as well. And registration for these live streams are open. So many thanks again to Eric from Bridgestone and Tuan from Schaeffler for joining us. Some great insights there, and I can't wait to go into more depth with you on site in Malaysia. And thank you to all of you as well for watching live or either on demand, and for being with us and for all the engagement with your questions. It's great to see that. And I also look forward to welcome you, all of our viewers in Kuala Lumpur as well. Thank you so much.